So, in this day of reactionary sports fans, social media, and the internet being as it is, I'm already hearing that the big winners, well, if you're an Edmonton fan, you think you won. If you're a Canucks fan, apparently you think you won. I'm not sure how. They sign Eriksson, and they sign Larson, and I don't see how the Canucks are necessarily further ahead. Anyways, and the big losers, I've read that Detroit's the big loser, is what I read on the Canucks board. I don't see how that works either. I'll tell you why. They got Vanek for a steal. They got Ott for a song. And then they got Nielsen for a very relatively decent cap hit over a 6-year period. Cap hit's lower than Eriksson, and I would argue that Nielsen brings more to the table than Louis Eriksson in terms of his flexibility and ability to move throughout the lineup. He's 2 years older, but in terms of deals, 7 years for Okposo, 7 years for Ladd, 7 years for Lucic, 6, and 5.5. It's as if all the GMs sat down and said, all right, this is what we're giving out this year, and they just all stuck to it, and $6 million seems to be the going rate. And I just don't understand how Andrew Ladd only costs $500,000 less than Okposo. I can kind of understand it with Nielsen or with Eriksson, but he costs more than Nielsen. Costs less than Backes. I don't like the Backes length of the contract in Boston, but I do like that David Backes is going to be a Bruin next year. I'm very much looking forward to that. James Reimer in Florida, that's fantastic. Eric Stahl gets a shot to prove himself, but he thinks he's a first-line forward. I heard the interview with him on TSN, and he's like, well, they're going to give me prime minutes. And I'm like, wait a minute, he still thinks he's a first-line forward. I mean, I know Jordan Stahl went to Carolina because he was going to be a second-line center, and he believed he was much better than third line, and then he got to Carolina, and his numbers just didn't bear it out. He got more ice time, and his production fell. I mean, is Mark Stahl going to come to training camp and tell New York, I'm your power play point man? I mean, is it something family-related? Dale Weiss got 4 years in term, and he's a little overrated. It's almost the David Clarkson thing because most of his goals were scored at the start of the year. Most of his offensive totals is 27 points. Most of that came at the start of the year, and then he was just invisible after that for Montreal. Hamhuis is a fantastic signing for Dallas. Very happy about that. Perron is an odd signing for St. Louis, but St. Louis knows him, so I guess they know what they're getting. Radulov baffles the hell out of me. I'm not sure what Montreal's thinking there. Colborne was assured by Calgary they were going to re-sign him, and he went to Calgary. Or went to Colorado from Calgary. Lee Stempniak goes to Carolina. He'll be a rental at the deadline. So if you want to get a rental, you can get him. And who else did they pick up that's going to be a rental later? Stahlberg. Stahlberg will be a good rental later because there's no way Carolina's going to the playoffs. So Campbell was a fantastic signing for Chicago. I'm just going through the list here. Kevin Connauton got 2 years for $1 million per from Phoenix. Surprises me because Connauton's kind of waiver fodder. So let's see. Hudobin signing in Boston as their backup. I was actually upset when Hudobin left Boston. I like Hudobin. Part of it's because I like saying Hudobin. Devontae Smith-Pelly re-ups with New Jersey. Grabner signs in with the Rangers. Sorry, New York. He's very disappointing. Matthias is a good under the radar signing for Winnipeg. Very good utility forward. I really liked him in Vancouver. It's really sad that they couldn't keep him due to the cap, but I like Matthias a lot. Chimera played really well, had 20 goals last year for Washington. However, he's 37, and signing him to a 2-year deal for $2.25 million per. It's a little bit of a risk, but the Islanders had to make up for what they lost today. I don't think Chimera and Ladd make up for losing Okposo and Nielsen, but at least it's the same number of bodies, right? So it has to be something the same. It's not, though. Feder Tootin gets $2 million from Colorado. I don't know why. He's not worth it. John Michael Lyles gets $2 million from Boston. He is worth it. Here's a good value signing I noticed early. Colton Sevier goes from Dallas to Florida. $950,000 a year for 2 years. He's a good forward. I like Colton Sevier as a bottom six guy, energy guy. He's a good signing. Very smart move for Florida. So they pick up some depth there and they pick it up for cheap. Jeff Zatkoff leaves Pittsburgh and goes to the LA Kings. I like Zatkoff. That's a good backup for Jonathan Quick. What else? Now I'm really looking for out of the way signings here. Dallas keeps Patrick Eaves for $1 million. No risk to that. Eaves is a perfectly serviceable bottom six forward. Brett Connolly goes from Boston to Washington. He's done. Jonas Gustafsson gets $800,000 from Edmonton. You know, he played really well in Boston. He outplayed Tuukka Rask at points last year, and he's a very good backup. So Edmonton now has their goaltending straightened out. Calgary has their goaltending straightened out with Chad Johnson coming in to back up Brian Elliott. This is why I couldn't do all the season previews, because until free agency's done, I can't fill in a roster and look at it and say, okay, this is good or this is bad. Bo Bennett signing in New Jersey for $725,000. That's a potential steal. That kid needed a change of scenery. He gets it with the Devils. I'm not sure what the Devils are cooking down there, but you never know. Quentin Howden. This is an interesting one for Canucks fans. Everybody lost their shit when the Canucks traded Michael Grabner in a first for Keith Ballard. You'll be glad to know Quentin Howden was the first that was traded, and he's been a flop. And he's now an unrestricted free agent signing with Winnipeg for $650,000. And Michael Grabner is he's Michael Grabner. Let's see, who else is a steal down here? Alex Stalock leaves Toronto, goes to Minnesota for $650,000. I mean, according to Jamie McLennan on TSN, this solidifies Minnesota's backup. He'll back up Kemper. I don't see it that way. Stalock's numbers were bad, and I don't see him being a guy who can steal games, and you need a backup who can steal some games from a starter like Kemper, who may not be up to the job. There's a lot of reasons to be concerned if you're Minnesota right now. I can't see them being done with their goaltending. Speaking of iffy goaltenders, Justin Peters goes from Washington to Arizona for $600,000. He won't play in the majors because Arizona, I think, is happy with what they have. I think with Domingue as the backup. Adam Clendenning, for Canucks fans who might be interested, goes to the Rangers for $600,000. Yannick Weber goes from Vancouver to Nashville for $575,000. He's just going to the minors anyways. Cameron Gauntz goes to Pittsburgh, so he won't be reunited with Brendan Gauntz. Jared Tenorti's still out there. Oh, this list who's still out there. So let's see who's still out there. Let's play this game. Oh no, it just shows guys who haven't shown the cap hit yet on, because it got Joe Canada on here going from Vancouver to Washington. So Jared Tenorti staying in Arizona. Stanton goes to Colorado. Michael Caput goes to Vancouver from Columbus, or Chaput. I'll just say Caput. Turner Elson, Agazino. I don't know who cares about these guys, basically. And not to say that nobody cares. Like, Montoya is a really good player. He'll be a good backup for Montreal this coming season. Sam Carrick goes from Toronto to Chicago. So that's the end of that. Carrick and Carrick. Won't be playing with Connor. They haven't. It says here to be determined on how much money Vanek gets, but I saw it was $2.6 million. Yeah, they got the guys on here who haven't been picked up yet. All right, let's look at the guys who haven't been picked up. Sam Gagner, the Canucks were rumored to be looking at Gagner. I hope not. RJ Umberger's in here. I hope he doesn't sign anywhere. I can't see Willie Mitchell signing anywhere due to his age and his well-documented injuries. Yuri Hudler's still out there. Wow. He is going to be a steal for somebody. Unless he ends up in Europe. David Jones is still available. Dennis Seidenberg's still available. They don't show Bodker as having been picked up yet when he was. Matthias Olin's on here. Hasn't he retired? Brad Stewart's still available. Grossman's still available. Tanguay. Jason Demers. There's Mason Raymond. Medvedev's going back to Europe. Brad Richards, he's going to retire. Chris Russell's going to get big money somewhere. Brandon Prust. Ben Scrivens is a free agent out of Montreal. Matt Barkowski. It's not a great list. Christian Ehrhoff, Marek Zidlichky. A lot of these guys are going to Europe. Cody Hodgson's definitely, he's got Europe tattooed on his forehead right now. Jonas Enroth. I'm surprised nobody picked up Enroth. He put up really good numbers with the Kings last year. If the Canucks had some guts, I wouldn't mind seeing him in Vancouver. Oh, Lyndon Vase, UFA, speaking of Vancouver. He's not going anywhere. Josh Juris, Brad Boys. There's Brandon Peary. I keep seeing on the Canucks board. Can we get Peary? Let's get Peary. Even so, somebody make that comment on my. You know, I wouldn't mind Peary, but he is bottom 6. He doesn't have a whole lot of upside. I'd rather see them sign this guy, Mike Santorelli. I loved Santorelli in Vancouver. For whatever reason, they just won't bring him back. Zach Phillips, he was a flop. Brandon Gormley, he's been a flop in his career. He's still good in NHL games, though. Dane Fox. Jordan Tutu is a free agent. Bill Arnold's a UFA. Bill Arnold was line mate of Johnny Gaudreau in college. So that's why Calgary picked him up. Or did they have him first? Doesn't matter. Basically, the reason they still had him in their system is because they were together. And I guess Bill Arnold, from the looks of his numbers, took a step back this year. So I guess they just gave up on him. Matt Fratton. I loved Matt Fratton. He was the only Leaf I liked. After the lockout, when the NHL network was free that year just because the NHL was kissing our ass. And I watched every Leafs game, and I loved Fratton. And then he got hurt, and when he came back, he just wasn't the same. And, you know, he had so much energy and drive, and I don't know what happened to him. Matt Cullen's still out there as a free agent. He's going to retire, though. He was leaning towards that before Pittsburgh picked him up, and now that he's won a Stanley Cup, I'd imagine he's just going to retire. Yuri Tolusti, come on, Toronto, you guys can get him back. You know you want him. You know you do. Matt Halischuk, he's probably done. Jared Knight, he never made it. Corbin Knight's still out there. Sammy Adacalio. No, Adacalio's an unrestricted free agent. Sign him, Vancouver. Or Edmonton, because then you have Puljujarvi and Adacalio. Or Calgary, because Calgary has to sign everybody with a goofy name. There's been a lot of them. Just tons. TJ Brennan, Jack Skilly. I remember when Jack Skilly was going to be a big deal. I remember, you know, for years I kept reading how the Blackhawks, yeah, they've got Taves and Kane, and this Skilly kid, he's gonna be great too. And it's like, no. And he's not. Lindstrom, Ben Street, Cormier, Justin Vive. Come on, Toronto, that's Rick Vive's kid. Sign him. Pick him up. Get him. Get him now. Get all the free agents. Michael Jordan. I don't know why the Blackhawks don't sign him. You know, they can really, really fool people. You know, just put him in a number 23 and just show the back of his jersey and just put it all around the city. Jordan. And people will show up and be like, Jordan's playing for the Blackhawks? Borna Randulic, he's signed with Vancouver. I want to have something interesting to add to that, but I have no idea what a Borna Redulic is. I do look forward to him playing in a game called by Bob Cole, though, because the way that Bob Cole butchers names is interesting. Anyways, we're up to 15 minutes, and out of all of this, what it tells me is this crop of free agents was lacking. It caused some guys to get overpaid. There's guys making $6 million who probably shouldn't have made that much. I don't have to pay their paychecks. I'm not the owner. I'm not the GM. It's not my job to make everything match and everything work. But I'm watching Stamkos get $8.5 million, and then Lucic gets $6 million. So Stamkos is only worth $2.5 million more. And you can talk about, oh, well, that's a hometown discount. It's great general manager work. And then $7.8 million for Hedman. Again, great work by Steve Yzerman in maintaining an internal cap structure while everybody else pays way too much for these guys. And he makes sure that the structure works so that he is going to lose a player or two, but he's going to keep most of that core together. And I really like what Tampa's doing. Tampa, I like what Chicago's doing. I'm sorry, but I like what Detroit's doing too. I think getting reclamation projects isn't necessarily a bad thing. And the problem is it doesn't make Detroit a contender, and it does leave them still middling. If they make the playoffs, they're still probably out in the first round. But Detroit has this proud tradition of making the playoffs for the last 25 years, and Holland's trying to make it 26. So I understand where he's coming from on that one. I guess we'll just see. But it's going to be quite the off season from here. I'll get into. I don't want to grade who won and who lost today because every team needs something different. Like Toronto didn't do anything really other than Matt Martin, but Toronto didn't need to. I think with the depth that they showed at the end of the season last year when they brought all those guys up from the American League and their record got better, and picking up Austin Matthews and potentially Chris Russell. We don't know what's going on there yet because Chris Russell still hasn't signed that I know of, unless it's on TV now. But if they can pick up another blue liner, their lineup looks pretty good. They were definitely planning on getting Stamkos. They were definitely planning on moving out salary to get him, and I think they're still going to move out salary. There was a press conference today by Jim Benning where he said he's looking to still make trades and UFA signings, and I think he's trying to get the Canucks back to the playoffs next year, and I don't think he cares what he sacrifices to get there. And this is why I didn't have Virtanen in my lineup, and everybody gave me shit for it and said, oh, Virtanen should play. Well, no, because he needs quality minutes. Just putting a prospect in your lineup doesn't mean he's going to get better. Because if he only gets 10, 12 minutes a night, he's not going to get better. It's just not going to happen. He needs, especially if he's a power forward that you're going to build around, he needs to play. He needs to play 18 minutes a night. He needs to be in top six. He needs to be on the power play. He needs to learn penalty killing. He needs to learn every part of the game, every facet of the game. And you can't do that being buried on the fourth line on a rebuilding team. And you've got the Sedins and Eriksson on the first line, and people are penciling, maybe Eriksson will play second line. No. It's been stated for at least the start of the season, Eriksson's on the first line. So your second line, they're paying Sutter $4.8 million. He's going to be second line. Hansen moves down to your second line. And it's not going to be a fun year. It's not. It's going to be rough. Like they're talking about, Anton Rodin's coming over, and they're pushing him for a spot in the lineup, and Philip Larsson signed, and maybe Larsson's become a top 4 defenseman while playing overseas, but he was a 5-6 guy before, And I don't know that he isn't a 5'6" guy now. So we'll just have to find out, I guess. That's the fun of it all. Anyways, that is the day one review of free agency, and I will get back into season previews from here. As I said previously, once this whole drafting free agency thing gets done, I'll redo draft charts and depth charts and figure out opening day lineups for each team, and we'll see where everybody's at, because a lot of things have changed. So, anyways, good job by some teams, poor job by others. The thing is, the teams declared the smartest or the most daring today are often the ones that 3 years from now are the most criticized and viewed as the most short-sighted. So the NHL is a fickle beast indeed. All right, thanks for watching.